Gambling Amendment Bill number 2, third reading.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Peter Dunn.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Gambling Amendment Bill number 2 be now read a third time. This is a momentous day. This bill was introduced some 3 parliaments ago by the Honourable Rick Barker. It had its second reading in 2009 under the Honourable Dr Richard Worth. Since then, Ministers Guy, Adams, Tremaine and now me have had responsibility for this bill. I can claim that under my stewardship we've at least had the Committee of the Whole stage, and today we begin the third reading. So some nearly 7 years after its introduction, this bill stands on the verge of being passed by this House. And it's going to be a short call. I'm not going to traverse the history of the last 7 years. I simply want to make these points about the legislation because some may conclude from that passage of time that it's not actually a significant piece of law. In fact, it is, because it deals with a lot of the community support that arises from gaming machines and ensuring that as far as possible the funds so derived go to the point where they are meant to go. And I think that the amendments contained in the supplementary order paper that I introduced during the course of the bill make some important additional changes in that regard. Some changes had to take account of the fact that time had moved on from the time of the introduction of the bill. In particular, we've put specified obligations on gambling operators after they are licensed. They now emphasise to gambling operators their responsibilities in having the community at the forefront of their operations and help ensure that operators are part of a clean, well-run sector. It's also clear that operators can be held to account if they lose sight of that focus. Mr. Speaker, gambling always contains a high harm potential, so it's important that the Act's harm prevention and minimisation measures work well, and there are a number of useful steps contained within it to achieve those objectives. For example, current requirements for the banking of community money generated by non-casino gaming machines have been strengthened. That's been a problem area for this sector for some time. The bill also enables us to collect better information and publish on grants made to the community by gaming machine operators. Again, a move towards greater transparency in an area where there's a lot of public interest and often fascination. And there are fresh obligations on grant recipients about how they use the funds that they've been advanced in accordance with the terms of those particular grants. Mr. Speaker, the bill also contains a number of other reforms. I think it is fair to say, however, it became clear during the debate in the latter stages of the bill that given rapid changes in the gambling space, that some of the provisions that this bill contains and that the companion measure, the number 3 bill, which is currently before the Select Committee, also contains, may well in short order be overtaken by a move to much greater non-terrestrial gambling. And I've indicated that that's an area that the government is looking at in terms of whether there is a requirement for a much broader review of law to take account of that particular area of change. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to name all of the members who sat on the Government Administration Select Committee. I suspect many of them have gone on to do other things since the bill was first introduced. But I do want to acknowledge the contribution that the committee made. I want to acknowledge the contribution that members during the debates over the years have made. I recall Mr Hipkin's pining comments at one stage that at the rate of progress this bill that he's seen so far, he's got 3 more elections before this bill finally comes into law. I can assure him that will not be the case. I think that he will have to find some other causes to worry about over that time. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to delay the House unduly. I don't want to trivialise what is a very important issue. Despite the delays, this bill does bring forward some worthwhile changes. It has been widely supported, and I am delighted to be the Minister that finally commends the third reading of this bill to the House.
Speaker.
Adrian Rurewhite.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have to agree with the Minister, sir. This is a momentous day to get to third reading after such a long time. And I congratulate the Minister and the Select Committee for getting it to this stage finally. Can I say, Mr. Speaker, that I find that the balance between 2 very contrasting parts of the sector is a difficult one to find the right balance between between the people that are harmed or participate in gambling and also within the industry itself. So this particular bill goes some way to addressing some of the issues that have been raised since the original Act was enacted in 2004, or 2003 I think, sorry. And I think that we're very proud on this side that it was the Labor government that actually put this legislation